Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another one of my interviews. Sorry for the late start, but something happened on his end. Not his fault, but we got it all situated. We got it here. So I have current pro wrestler. He's also a podcaster on his own podcast, the Hannibal TV. He is also a current actor. He has wrestled for the companies such as WWE, TNA, NWA, Inoki Pro, GNW, DSW, WWC, and much, much more. He was been under many other different wrestling names, such as the Blood Hunter, the Hannibal, Devon Nicholson, Ken Nicholas, and so much more. So I'm going to get him on in here, and then we will start with the interview. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. How are you doing?
Good. Other than my little issue that I just am getting figured out right now. I'm in a garage, everybody. We won't say the reason why, but we'll keep that a mystery.
Yeah, it's all fine.
But it's
All
actually
right.
my first interview I've ever done from a cell phone, so there you go.
All right. So yeah, first. All right. So the first question I'll ask you is, when did you start doing wrestling, and what made you want to get into it?
What made me want to get into it? I guess the whole Hulk Hogan versus Macho Man feud when the Mega Powers exploded back in the 80s, which people can watch on YouTube now, which you probably may have seen, but it probably was a bit before your time. But I was very young myself, and my mother at the time babysat a kid that was about 3 or 4 years older than me that was a big wrestling fan, and he kind of got me into that whole angle. He brought over the tape. The first thing I ever saw was the Saturday Night's Main Event where they actually had their breakup. So once I saw that, I was kind of hooked. And then I just
Yeah, of
wanted to be a
course.
pro wrestler. I didn't really see myself doing anything else.
Yeah, because that's a lot of kids' dreams when they're little. So when they're wrestling fans.
Yeah, and it was very popular back around that time. You would even before I got into it, you would see people walking around with Hulk Hogan shirts on and Macho Man shirts. I didn't quite know what they were, but I always thought they were cool. So I figured it out. And the toys look cool. The toys were popular back
Yeah.
then too.
Yep. So, who was your favorite wrestler to watch as a kid? I know you mentioned there was Hulk Hogan, but was there some others that you watched on TV?
Yeah, I actually liked Macho Man better than Hulk Hogan, although I wanted them to get back to. I didn't like that Macho Man was a heel at the time. I wanted him to turn back babyface and get back with Hulk Hogan. And I was adopted, so I always like fantasized that maybe Elizabeth and Macho Man were my real parents because I didn't know really much about. So that was like always my fantasy as a kid. And Ric Flair, I was a fan of, and The Undertaker. Those were probably my top three as a kid.
Of course, a lot of wrestling fans' favorites back in the day. So,
Yeah, and strangely enough, I liked Shawn Michaels best when he was with Sensational Sherry, and I liked Triple H best in WCW and Steve Austin best in WCW. So you could kind of say I kind of predicted that they would become stars by liking them as a kid when they had like the gimmicks didn't get over as much. But for some reason, I never found their gimmicks that got over as good for my entertainment as their original gimmicks.
of course, yeah. Who were your wrestling trainers? Who helped you get into the business?
There have been a lot. I mean, the main two were Rougeau and Bruce Hart, but I also spent a total of 2 weeks with Harley Race. I attended a bunch of camps over the years. Bill DeMott, you could say, trained me a bit. Lance Storm, I've done some camps with. Tom Pritchard, I've done some camps with. So there's a lot of guys, but definitely Jacques, even Ted Hart. I guess you could technically say Ted Hart gave me my initial training with Leo Burke, who's a Canadian legend. But
Oh yeah,
yeah, I think he may have helped Bret Hart a bit too. He was helping when I first got into it. But yeah, I would say Jacques Rougeau taught me most about the entertainment aspect, and Bruce Hart more actually how to wrestle.
yeah, of course. That's big names. The Hart family, an incredible wrestling family, one of the best. So yeah,
Yeah, actually, technically, the two most famous wrestling families in Canada are the Harts and the Rougeaus. So it's kind of cool that I got to train with both of them. And still am friends. I mean, I've never really met Bret Hart, but the rest of the Hart family I get along with, and the all of the Rougeaus I get along with still to this day.
that's awesome. Who would you pinpoint as like the stiffest wrestler you've gone in the ring with in your career?
Well, there's been lots that are like no names that just weren't trained very well that people won't know. I would say when I wrestled Heidenreich in WWE, when when he clotheslined me, and I did tell him to clothesline me as hard as he can, and he definitely did it because I remember like literally seeing stars appear when he clotheslined me. Just like if you get punched too hard, you'll see stars. I definitely saw stars when he clotheslined me, but I told him to. So it's not like he did that without me telling him to.
Yeah, you received it. What you
But
asked
on
for. So
now that you mention it, from stiffest as far as like giving me concussions, there's been a bunch of them, from Jeremy Prophet to like Sabu, uh, and Scorpio also gave me a concussion. But I would say Sabu gave me the worst concussion I ever had. He hit me in the back. He was supposed to hit me in the back, but he ended up hitting me in the back of the head with a steel chair, and it opened it right
mm,
up, and it made me like so out of it that I knew he was supposed to hit me after in the front of the head, but because I was like in a complete daze, I couldn't get my hands up to protect myself. So then that same chair just hit me full force and ended up cutting me at the front of the head too, which you can probably, well, there's a lot of scars, but it's he put one of them on there. But that concussion lasted like a full week. I was dizzy,
wow.
not able to really train that well. So I put them all up in stiffness too. Jeremy Prophet, there's a clip if you look up Hannibal versus Jeremy Prophet. He's more of a Canadian known guy, but he has wrestled for WWE. But he's a multiple time Canadian champion. He had me on a table on the outside and he leg dropped me from the top rope, but his ass, and he's like 235, and I'm out on the floor and it's cement underneath. His ass completely landed on my head, and like my
Mm,
head just bounced off the cement, and that required
ooh.
multiple stitches. And I remember that night I did end up partying all night, but when I went to sleep, I slept like almost 40 hours, and it must have been something to do with the concussion because I never slept that long. But that was a bad one. I'm lucky I trained my neck so much because I am a former Canadian champion in amateur wrestling. If my neck hadn't been so strong, I don't think I would have survived that.
Yeah, it's good for definitely when you're getting into wrestling to train your neck because, like Big E, for example, he could have definitely died possibly on the spot there if he didn't train his neck because he's amateur as well. So,
Yeah, and we don't know if he's ever going to wrestle again due to whatever injury he has there to his neck. The last I heard from him, I mean, luckily for him, that happened in a WWE ring, so they probably
Yeah.
have to compensate him for the rest of his life if he can't wrestle. But still, I'm sure he'd rather wrestle than be limited due to that neck injury. He was one of the grumpiest guys I ever met, by the way. I met him at the Iowa Hall of Fame Dan Gable Luthez, where I was like one of the main people recording it that year, and he refused to do even like a 30-second interview. He was, and everybody was doing them. So it was
What do you
one of
consider
those
to be a
guys. Maybe you
weakness
can
and
see
a
that.
strength of yours in wrestling?
Weakness you can always get. Oh, are you there still? Are we still on? I don't know if we're still on or not. I don't know if he's back, but by the way, thehannibaltv.com is my website. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Hannibal TV. You can follow us there, and YouTube at the Hannibal TV, Canada's most popular YouTube channel for professional wrestling. We have almost 400,000 subscribers, almost 250 million views. There's interviews on there with almost everybody from the world of professional wrestling, including the Honky Tonk Man. Oh, here he's back.
Yeah, sorry about that. My internet kicked me off.
Oh, it's okay. Weakness. I'm a bad politician. I'm not political. I'm not good at sucking up to people, and I speak my mind too much, which is probably the worst thing you can have in pro wrestling. And strength is I'm a very believable professional wrestler.
Yeah. So somebody in the comments asked, who was the most influential person in your career?
Oh, that is a tough one. Well, I guess superstar Billy Graham, I'll have to say, because for a while, well, I guess technically on a bad side, the most influential was Abdul the Butcher, who infected me with a disease that was proven in court, and that influenced me in a bad way. But he had been my mentor prior to that, and I was kind of his protege. And then post that incident, Billy Graham for helping me get cured on the opposite spectrum, and also being there for me right up until the time that he died, advising me. He had even tried to get me back into the WWE in 2016. I actually was scheduled for an NXT tryout that was through him, Jim Ross, Gerald Briscoe, and Ric Flair all recommending me. And then the week of, for whatever reason, they mysteriously told me I was uninvited. So you never know who kiboshed that, but somebody saw my name on the list and kiboshed it that was higher up than Gerald Briscoe.
Hmm.
But yeah, those I would say Billy Graham and Abdullah were the two most influential.
Yeah, that's crazy about the NXT story that happened.
Yeah, it's so weird because I mean I did a match in front of Jim Ross and Gerald Briscoe. Then I did a match in front of Ric Flair. And why would any of them like they all recommended me and then they did put me through the whole process of getting into that NXT. I was talking to WWE for like 7 weeks and it looked like I was gonna be like legitimately looked at. And then mysteriously 10 days before I got an email from somebody that I'd never heard of from their talent relations department saying, sorry for any inconvenience we may have caused you, but you're no longer invited. So it was, I always found that weird, but I don't know who was behind that or what, but it was at that point that I really decided to focus on my channel because there was no AEW at that point and get the Hannibal TV bigger.
Yeah. So you do
Because
your own
basically, if all those
podcast.
people recommend you and you don't get if all those people recommend you and it gets canceled, you have no chance of getting it. There's no other way of getting it. At least maybe at that point in time.
True. Yep. So you do your own podcast, Hannibal TV. What made you get into podcasting after um, wrestling, basically? Because you don't do much of wrestling now. You do more of your podcasting.
Yeah, I don't. I'm doing some for Jack Kilby this year to help Great North Wrestling going, but it's just that I kind of lost. I'm not really a fan of today's products, so I'm not really as motivated to do it, and it's easier to do podcasting. And I like doing podcasting. What got me into it is a guy was doing a movie on me called "This Is Hannibal." It ended up winning 3 awards at the LA Movie Awards in 2012, and as part of that, he was following me around for a couple years with cameras, and sometimes he would get me to interview people since I was better at doing wrestling interviews than him. So it was kind of just an accident that we figured out that I was good at interviews that way. And then I'd been on YouTube for several years on different people's channels. I didn't understand how easy it was to do YouTube. Then at one point, one of the people I was working with had bragged to me about how much money he was making off my videos. And I'm like, what? You make money off of these? And then I started doing my own, basically.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you? You could to get money, you know. So
Yeah, I think I'm the first one. I definitely know I am the first one to put non-pirated wrestling interviews up for free on the internet, because before everybody was selling DVDs and people were calling me, making fun of me, but like little did they know I was, or maybe they did know and they just didn't want people to realize it. I was making money off of it. And like for a while there, I was one of the few doing it. Like people were illegally posting RF video and kayfabe commentary videos from like fan accounts, but they weren't putting up their own at that point. But now everybody does it.
yeah, true. Yeah. Have you ever like wrestled or done anything in like Wisconsin before?
No, is that where you're from?
Yeah.
No, I would like to. I would like to try the cheese there.
Yeah.
Maybe as I said, I've taken several years off. I'm coming back next month for 2 events, one in the US that hasn't been announced yet, one in Canada, and then I got another one in August where I'm teaming with Warlord. Those are for Great North Wrestling. And the other one is for Mario Mancini and Paul Roma's company. But maybe I'll make my way out to Wisconsin eventually. I would like to go
Yeah.
for sure.
That'd be great. So,
I have a friend who was from Wisconsin. He moved to Vegas, but he told me lots of stories about Wisconsin.
oh, nice. Yeah, I'll
And
probably
you
have to
guys
tell
have
a
a
promoter
huge
here.
wrestling history there. Yeah, you have a huge
Yeah,
wrestling
we do.
history there with the Crusher. Yeah.
Yep. Like the biggest, one of the biggest names. Yeah. So, I don't know if.
Someone vandalized his statue a few years ago, and I remember it was all over the news.
Oh, I didn't. I didn't know that. I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, they ended up catching the kids that did it, but yeah, they did something to his statue. And there was a big. It was all over international news. But they ended
Wow.
up catching the people that did it, and they fixed the statue.
Well, that's good.
Not many wrestlers have statues built to them, so that's pretty cool.
Yep. Yep. So, if you don't mind sharing the story of the North Texas match that you had and the stabbing incident, that's if you don't mind sharing the story.
The basics of it is a lot of people believe it's basically a prop malfunction incident. First of all, that wasn't my company. That was a world class pro wrestling event. I was not the booker for that. Eric Embry and Kevin Sullivan were the bookers. That was not my spike. That was actually Kevin Sullivan. That's actually the same spike Kevin Sullivan used on Dusty Rhodes. A fan had
Hmm.
brought it that had I guess it's worth quite a bit of money too. But the first time I'd actually had that spike was in the ring that night. So I sadly did not know how sharp it was. But there was a referee. The match was between me and Carlito. Nobody ever talks about the match that I had with Carlito, which was 10 minutes long and uneventful, or the part after the referee, which went completely as planned. But basically, there was a referee. It wasn't the referee for the match. It was the referee that was brought in specifically to get color. Because on the next show, I was supposed to wrestle Shane Douglas. Carlito,
Hmm.
obviously, he's not known for getting color. He's not going to get color. This referee had experience getting it. He had done like intense color before, and he had actually told us he was going to get a lot of color that night. They had actually had a different canvas on for that match, and they changed it at intermission specifically because he said he was going to get a lot of blood. Now, I didn't realize how sharp this thing was. By the way, he did cut himself. He did end up cutting himself, like he said. I thought the blood was from his cuts, but I had actually cut him with the spike several times. It was a pure accident. The people that were supposed to come in and break it up also took way too long. My manager at the time was always supposed to break it up. That was all part of the script, and then I was supposed to beat up the ring announcer and some other people on the outside, which I still did. But nobody at the time this was going on put up an X. Nobody, including the referee, told me to stop. Like,
Hmm.
to me, I'm not realizing he's being cut by anything but his, his blade, and you can actually see him blade on the video. But someone actually called the police. The police investigated it. They told me I was free to go. There was promo pictures taken after the event with Kevin Sullivan and I and the manager, and there was even a promo still cut for the Shane Douglas show, which was supposed to happen the next month. There was I did speak to the referee after, who at that time claimed he was a veteran, so he was covered by some type of medical insurance, and he claimed that his deductibles were $200 that night. Well,
Hmm.
suddenly the next day it became a much bigger story, and it seemed like the promoter tried to throw me under the bus. And then suddenly, and keep in mind, I've never seen any medical bills from this guy. He's suddenly claiming $10,000 in medical bills, which, by the way, I ended up paying him more. The company ended up paying him more, and he got about $10,000 in GoFundMe. How much his actual
Wow.
medical bills were, nobody knows. Nobody's seen his medical bills. I'm not saying he's lying, but the night that it happened, he told me they were 200. So how does it go from $200? Like there's some strange stuff that went on, and it's a terrible situation, but it was unintentional, and everything else that night went as planned. And for the people that want to claim it was intentional, well, why did the police just tell me to go? They actually investigated that night and said, you're free to go. So if there was any, you know how Texas police are. They once when I was just walking around my hotel room, uh, waiting for my laundry to go, they pulled me over and held me for 20 minutes for being quote unquote suspicious. This was like what I
Hmm.
first got to Texas earlier that year. Like the police there are very intense, like, and they had no issues. They said they basically realized the same thing. It's an accident. The guy was paid to bleed. He bled. As far as the prop was not my prop. It wasn't even my idea. You can't find any other footage of me ever in my career using a spike, and it wasn't my spikes. So, pretty much story on that. It was blown out. It was a terrible accident, and I feel bad for the guy, but it was blown out of proportion. Sorry, there's mosquitoes in here.
Wow, that's a crazy story and awesome. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a bad story because it affected me for a while. I had death threats. It affected me emotionally and mentally because I mean, I felt bad, and then my YouTube channel went down, and it was not a good thing for anybody involved. And he actually tried to get back to wrestle for the company a few months later, or not wrestle, but referee a few months after that. But for whatever reason, they didn't want to use him.
Hmm.
I was told that by
Have you
the
ever?
promoter.
Yeah. Have you ever got a hold of him since then? Since like recently or anything?
The last I talked to him was the night of the event where he actually said,
Mm.
if you guys, I actually did like a draft book entry, and if you go to Hannibal Memories on Texas Wrestling, I actually put the message where he puts up shit happens, no problem, bro, and I thanked him for putting me over. Because the whole point of what he was supposed to do was to make me look like the ultimate heel, which sadly happened, but to an extreme where it got press in the UK, made the New York Post, made TMZ, made all the top newspapers around here. It went too far as making me the ultimate heel. But there was in the last communications I had with him, he always understood it was an accident, as these
Hmm.
mosquitoes eat me alive. Yeah, and I don't know if you have them in Wisconsin, but they're pretty bad here around this summer.
Oh yeah, there's a lot outside, flying everywhere you get in there. So yeah. So I know there was something going around with Billy Jack Haynes and you that he wanted to fight you and challenge you in a match. What was that all about? And what is your thoughts on the recent story about him
That was just him
with his
trying to get
wife?
publicity. Yeah, that was just him trying to get publicity. Um, it was a that's the thing with me. A lot of here's the one thing, and where you asked me earlier, like what's one of my strong points, being believable. I think as far as my Blood Hunter character, people I did such a good job of making people think I'm crazy. People actually believe that I'm like crazy and want to hurt people. But as far as like little scenarios, like with Billy Jack Haynes, like that's what we call a work shoot, where you just like do a realistic scenario and get people's interest. But he couldn't have wrestled me. I would have liked to have done something with him, but sadly, he has heart issues. He's got so many internal issues. Like, I know in his heart he would have liked to have got back in the ring because he never had like a proper retirement match. But like he just couldn't have
Yeah.
done it. And I did a bunch of interviews with him. And he actually messaged me. Here's the annoying part. He messaged me about 45 minutes before he killed his wife. He called me.
Wow.
My my mother was over at my, like, every time Billy Jack Haynes called me, he would keep me on the phone like for very long periods of time, sometimes hours. Okay, so it's like you're not just gonna hang up and get him off and on the phone. And I remember he called me I forget the exact time, but it was sometime around 11 or 12. But it ended up being, when I read the report, it was about, I think it was 12:15, because I think the murder happened around 12:45, or sorry, 9:45 ish his time. So it was earlier in the morning his time. But my mother was over um, visiting me for a bit, so I was just like, okay, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'll just call him back when she leaves. But it still bothers me to this day. Like, was he calling me to like try and calm him down? Could I have done anything to prevent that? Like, what the hell was he calling me for just before this happened? He had always talked to me about his wife. I knew she wasn't in good health, suffering from dementia, but like, I never was under the impression anything like this would ever happen. He always expressed a lot of love towards her. So sadly, I don't think that was a very good decision on his part at all. I don't think he has mental health issues. He's had a lot of concussions in his life, and like, I still don't think I commu- I ha I'm friends with his cellmate's sister. He has a good cellmate.
Oh,
Um, like, it's not like you could be in there with someone that's like a murderer, like a serious murderer, and you like have to sleep with one eye open. The guy he's a cellmate with is like a thief type person. Like, it's not someone he's got to worry about.
oh,
But like, it doesn't seem to compute from what I understand to him, that like he's very likely going to be in jail for the rest of his life. Sadly for him, like, he's not going to be bailed out because of the rules in Oregon. I know that they're going to do some evaluations on him and try and see if like they can prove. Well, he definitely has mental health issues, and that definitely played a role in it. But is it an excuse for killing somebody? I I don't know. I don't. I and if he did kill someone due to his mental health issues, should he be free? Where it could possibly happen again, I really don't know. I don't know any details about the actual murder, but it's a sad situation.
yeah. Because when I seen it come out, because he's been disappeared for like many, many of years, and nobody knew where he was. And um, I seen a post about it that he murdered his wife, and I'm like, wait, what? Is this real? I was like shocked and surprised. I clicked on the link, I read it, and I was like, wow, it surprised me. And then people told me that he had like mental problems, and uh,
Yeah,
he was just what they said in his words, crazy or psycho. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, I had done. He did disappear. Like, from the time I had my little angle with him, he disappeared in between there for like around a couple of years, and that's, I guess, when he actually got married. And then he
Okay.
did, I think, two or three interviews with me before he killed his wife. And as I was telling you about the phone calls, he's a conspiracy theorist. So like, when you're on the phone with him, like, I'm trying to be nice to him because I know he doesn't have a lot of friends and stuff. And I'm listening to this stuff, but like, his theories are just so over the top. And he claims that he worked for like the Colombian cartel. He claims that he's murdered people and worked for drug lords and stuff, and worked for Bill Clinton. It's like Bill and Hillary Clinton. There's no way he did. I'm sorry. Like, it just doesn't. None of it adds up. And yeah, he, like, for the amount, he always claimed he had a ton of money, but I know his lawyer is like the free lawyer you get. I don't know. I forget what it's called, but like, the whole situation is sad. So there's nothing really I can say about it. It's too bad the family couldn't have got the wife before any of this happened. And that's the other thing with Billy. Like, if he claims, apparently, from what I understand, that he had a pact with the wife where if she got too far gone, he would she would want him to end her life. That's
Mm.
his claim, but he didn't get that in writing, from what I understand. So even if he had it in writing, it would be hard to like make as an excuse. But he didn't have it in writing, so yeah, he took the
Wow.
wrong turn because like here's the annoying thing. He always wanted me to come there and like do a documentary on him, and that would have been great. And I actually could have done it this year, but it's like he just made this horrible decision, and he's sadly probably going to just be in jail a long time, and I don't know if he's going to get out or not. He's already pretty old.
Yeah. I think he might pass away in prison. I feel jail.
Because from what I understand from him, he had a lot of health problems to begin with, and he's in his 70s. I can tell people though, like I know that he did this, and it does have to do with him having mental health issues. But I mean, I've seen a good-hearted side of him. Like I guess everyone has. Like I guess Chris Benoit had too. But I guess I don't know what led to it. But it's just sad that he snapped and allegedly shot her, according to the reports.
Yeah. Crazy.
She was 86, I think. So he must be in his early 70s because I remember she was like quite a bit older than him, over 10 years older than him.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was weird to begin with. That was
Yeah.
weird to begin with. And I guess it was one of his best friend's mothers.
Hmm. Even weirder.
Yeah, and I guess he waited till the friend died to marry her because the friend didn't approve of them going out, from what I
Hmm.
understand.
Yeah. He is kind of weird.
He is weird, and I do know that he's asking for fans to help him if they want to send him any money to get paper, extra food in prison. I did do it. If you search on YouTube, Billy Jack Haynes prisoner info, you'll get the note on that. And I'm not saying anyone should or shouldn't help him. I'm just putting it out there because I mean he's probably going to be in there the rest of his life, and you don't get paper or much in the way of food there unless you have extra money to use the concession area or whatever it's called there. So if any Billy Jack Haynes fans are watching this and want to just search up on YouTube Billy Jack Haynes prisoner info, I did a video giving it. So and again, I do not condone what he did at all. It's I'm very disappointed that that happened, and I wish I had answered the phone that day. It's always going to bother me because I think if he had been in like a I mean, it could have happened another time, but I think I could have helped talk him into a more calm state if I had answered the phone, sadly.
Yeah. Do you think you'd be able to do like a jail interview with him? Like on like the phone or something?
Oh, probably. Yeah, probably. I know Dark Side of the Ring has already been talking to him, but from what I understand, they don't necessarily want to do a Dark Side on the Ring of him until they have a verdict because it could run into legal issues down the road. But I'll definitely come to Oregon at some point and go see him
Yeah.
and try and get an interview with him for sure. Get his side of it, but again, I feel bad for the family. I have been contacted by the family, um, so the mother did have people that cared about her. That probably, if it was getting too much for Billy, I mean, I don't know the details. I only know their side of it, but he may have been able to put custody over to them. I really don't know all the details. So he always expressed nothing but love to her, to me. And if you look at the news reports from the neighbors, you hear the same thing. He seemed very in love with her. So I don't know.
Yeah. So, is there any time a fan has seen you in public and got like super surprised and or excited?
Yes. Yeah, many times. Well, it's funny because I've been a bar. I've worked in bars, and it's funny. Some people are like totally shocked when they see me ask for their ID. Especially like I remember one who had like actually done a study on my case with Abdullah and thought that he'd actually paid it. It was like, what? I thought you were supposed to be a multi-millionaire. Like, no, you never paid a cent. But that's funny. I still a lot of the times I put up posters for wrestling events around here because I find if I don't do it myself, um, like a lot of the times the people that you ask to do it won't do it, and some people get so excited, particularly around here where people know me a lot. When you walk into the store, they'll be like, "Oh, Hannibal, what the hell? What are you doing in here?" It's kind of nice to see because sometimes you forget um, that people watch your podcasts and stuff. I definitely say I'm more known as a podcaster here, but when I was wrestling in Texas, they did have a TV show there, and I was recognized as well. In Puerto Rico, you were recognized too a lot because when I wrestled in Puerto Rico for IWA and WWC, they had like each company had 4 hours of TV a week, but I was a bad guy, and I guess I
Hmm.
played it well because you would see people pointing like, "Oh my God," but like they would be too afraid, especially kids, to come up to you. But like I would notice that they would either point there or the kids would start wrestling each other when they saw me because they knew it would get
Mm,
my attention. But yeah, it's
yeah.
always nice. I've never had any real bad experiences with that. They're always People are always happy to meet you. It's embarrassing. It does suck though, honestly, when you're working at a bar sometimes. I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore. And then you can't really leave your post, and then the fans want to try and talk to you for the whole night. That's not fun. That did happen a
Yeah.
couple of times. And I did actually
Def.
back when I don't personal I still work in the gym, but I used to personal train, and I had two clients actually that it seemed like they were paying just to spend time with me as a wrestler and ask me wrestling questions. And eventually I just told my boss at the time, "Hey, I can't do this anymore. This is not fun. I don't want to answer wrestling questions for this whole time."
Yeah.
And I did
And at the
actually have a
bar, they.
stalker at one point back in 2012.
Hmm.
That was not fun either. That was crazy. Actually had to get a restraining order to stop them. So there's good and bad to it.
Oh wow.
But even at the lower levels, you can get those obsessed people.
Yep. And I bet the people at
I
the
had
bar.
this one that like I stopped talking to them. Then they started contacting my friends. Then they started contacting my girlfriend at the time, try and get to me. Then we noticed they were following me. It was crazy.
Oh wow. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. A bit too far on that one.
Yeah, they actually brought me a they actually brought me a birthday cake that was like a very, very expensive birthday cake. And I'm like, I can't take this cake. I'm sorry, I cannot take this cake. Because they figured out where I worked. I'm not even kidding about this. And my girlfriend worked at the same place. It was actually a girl. And it's like she's thinking that, and I wasn't at this time. She's like, "Who is this person coming in? Bring your cake." I'm like, I'm honestly, this is a complete surprise." And I'm like, what do you do when someone brings you like a highly expensive cake to your work out of the blue? It's just so awkward. Like you make them go back, and then people are like brought to attention of seeing them with the kid. It was horrible. It might seem funny, but it was not funny at the time.
Yeah, of
Then I
course.
remember, I think that same day they waited outside. They waited outside for me after, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna work out after my shift, and hopefully they'll be long gone by the time I go. Just because I didn't want to deal with it, but it got worse and worse.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That I think was at like the height of my wrestling popularity around here when I was Hannibal and when I was a good guy, because I was a good guy around here for like once I got cured from Hep C, like no one wanted to boo me from around here because they knew the struggles I'd been with. So there was a
Oh
period
yeah.
where I was like a good. When you're bad, you don't have to worry with them talking to you as much.
Yep. So it's probably good to stay a heel on your part.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to do the mask when I was the Blood Hunter too, for a while there, to like help conceal the identity, so you don't have to
Yep.
see people in public.
Yep.
Because I still work. I do a normal job because I like it, but I'm like a very normal person, and I get like almost embarrassed if people recognize me and stuff. I just rather just talk like a normal person and do normal stuff.
Mm-hmm. What wrestler would you say is like giving you the best advice and or compliment?
Well, I think Billy Graham gave me the most good advice over the years, but let me. I think Vader told me that to just he's like you're good at reporting, stick to reporting. It's easier on the body, and at that time, I think I was 34 when I mean he'd never seen me wrestle, but he was telling me at that time after I interviewed him because I hung out with him for like 2 days. He's like, just be a reporter. It's easier on the body, and you're good at it. So I guess that was pretty
Yeah.
good advice overall.
Mm-hmm. So, what was your reaction to getting asked to be part of Dark Side on the Ring for Abdul the Butcher? And did you like the stuff that they talked about and getting your perspectives on the stories that they were talking about for you?
I they had been talking about it for a while. Um, what I didn't like about them is they acted all friendly with me and actually got a bunch of wrestlers' contacts from me for other episodes and stuff. And then it seemed like they tried to bury me in the episode. It's like this guy like has been found guilty in 2 countries. He's had about 5 lawyers over time on that incident. He's never said before that he couldn't read. I mean, I even showed them handwritten letters that he'd given me, and they wasted so much time trying to prove or show his side that he couldn't read when it's obvious he could read, and he is on record in biography saying he was actually kicked out of school when he was 16. He claims he was kicked out in that, I think, in grade two. How do you get kicked out of school in
Oh,
grade two? It's not even legal
oh,
to take your kid out
I
of
don't think
school
that's even
in grade
possible.
two. No, so it's
Yeah.
like, and if you make it to 16, he's from Canada, by the way. You're gonna learn how to read by 16. He was very successful. He transferred a bunch of properties in between and sold other properties between winning in Canada and winning in the U.S. The quote unquote nurse that was with him is his mistress. He's been cheating on his wife with that. Like he's been separated for his wife with his wife for years. That's not his nurse. That woman is his mistress. I believe she worked at a flower shop or something at one point. Like that's what she is. It's his girlfriend, whatever the hell you want to call her. Um, what I didn't like about them is for me, for instance, when they they brought up the Texas thing, which had nothing to do with the Abdullah thing. They just showed the clip of me saying, well, what was supposed to happen, there was something different that happened than what was supposed to happen. In reality, they talked to me about that for like an hour. They just took the clip out that they wanted to use. They cut my dog out of it, which if anyone that knows me from my videos, I'm very proud of my dog. I didn't like that they like cut my dog when they took so much footage of me and my dog, because it was like they wanted to kind of paint me as a bad guy. And I don't like that they compared Abdullah knowing he had Hep C and intentionally cutting me with a used blade, which is just like sharing a needle, without my consent, to a wrestling accident where I accidentally cut somebody. And if I'd known, I would have stopped. And I did apologize right after. He's never apologized to me. And it's been years
Oh
and it's
wow.
been proven. Yeah, he's never apologized at all. He still denies he has Hep C, even though we put out the records, and he's denied cutting me, even though we put it on video. So I think it's a bad comparison. He was on record. I mean, it's on record that I lost my WWE contract when they signed me in 2009. That's when I found out I had it. That's why they
Yeah.
rescinded the contract. So like he literally cost me my job. And people can say what they want about me. I never had the opportunity. So no one could say how good or bad I would have done. The fact was Pat Patterson really liked me. He told me I was his favorite from the camp. Darren Young was hired out of that camp. CM Punk's wife was in that camp. Mason Ryan, a bunch of others. AJ Lee is CM Punk's wife's name now that I remember. But like I was like Pat Patterson's guy, so it's like I think they would have tried to do something with me. I had good feedback from them, but he cost me potentially millions and millions of dollars. And now that there's AEW and WWE and there's all these like contract wars, like
Yep.
who knows how much money I would have made. So he cost me a lot, sadly, just by being. And by the way, he was found guilty of negligence, assault, and battery. Negligence because he knew he had Hep C, and anyone with Hep C, or even if you don't have Hep C, if you have a razor blade and you cut yourself and you cut someone else, that's negligent. You should know that you're in danger of transmitting whatever you have to them because you're taking your blood, you're putting it into their bloodstream. Assault, he never had my permission to cut me, and battery, it caused bodily harm. So it was negligence. It wasn't, you can never 100% prove if someone passed something to you, but we can prove he was negligent. And more likely than not, that's what caused me to catch it.
Wow. Yeah. And that's
Which,
when
by the
you
way, took me
sued the
years to
WWE.
overcome. Yeah, that by the way took me years to get rid of because now the treatments are better, but I had to go through two like very long chemotherapy like treatments. The second one wasn't covered by the government. It was very expensive, and I had to pay it with my own money. So
Wow.
yeah, it was not a fun process getting cured of that.
Yeah.
There's people. It's a holiday here. There's people setting off fireworks.
Oh, what kind of
Yeah,
holiday is it?
Queen Victoria Day. People. I guess you guys don't celebrate it there, but in Canada they celebrate it here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's not shotguns. If you guys can hear that in the background, it's fireworks.
So yeah, I'm guessing that's probably why you sued the WWE, and that's the story behind that.
The WWE thing I can't really talk about because that was settled, but it was basically it had to do with they had a no blood policy, and if you have a no blood policy to prevent transmission of blood, how can you say it's danger if you're supposed to stop matches? But again, there was a settlement that took place there.
Yeah.
that basically allowed me to go through my treatment that I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to get. Yeah.
Was there any time that a crowd member came out of the crowd and like attacked you, or have you personally witnessed that before?
Yes, there was a time, and I talked about it a couple times. It was in New Brunswick, Canada. I was wrestling this guy in his hometown, and he shouldn't have been wrestling me. Like he was not. Like I'm not saying I'm a big. Well, I am a star in Canada. I'm one of the best known wrestlers in Canada, and he was in the main event only because this was his hometown in Edmundston, New Brunswick, and I beat him in the match, but I gave him a good match. And then after the match, people from the crowd, I guess, were giving him like flowers, and he was standing up like he wasn't even beat and like completely no selling that I beat him. So I went back out from the dressing room and attacked him in a wrestling way, not in a real way, but it's like, I'm not going to let this guy humiliate me. We had a pretty good crowd there. It's like, I just beat this guy. We had a good match. I got him over. But now he's like walking around taking flowers and stuff, like nothing's wrong with him after I just like finish him off. So I attack him, and then the his friends and family come after me. So I didn't want to. I understood why they were coming after me, so I wasn't punching or kicking them. I was basically just using like amateur wrestling to keep them off of me, and I was telling him, okay, fire up, start punching me to the back, or these people are going to get hurt. And then we fought to the back, and they stopped once he started firing up on me. But yeah, that was the main one that stands out to me. That yeah, because I guess when I came after him, like the flowers smashed and everything, that whoever gave him the flowers got so really pissed off the audience.
Yeah. What usually got you hyped for a match that you were gonna be in?
I can just kind of just flip and go into whatever character that I'm playing. For me, it doesn't take a lot. It was harder when I first started. I don't even know if you can hear these fireworks or not, but they're getting pretty loud. But I guess when I first started, it was harder because I didn't really have a character. They gave me a stupid character, Kid Nichols, that you mentioned in Stampede. But once I started doing characters like Hannibal and Blood Hunter was good because like you put on the mask and it's like you transform once you have that mask on. You just feel like a
Yeah.
different persona. And Hannibal, I think once when I started doing the makeup and stuff, that really made a difference. But yeah, I was able to. It's just a different side of your personality that you turn up the dial on, I guess.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
never did. I never did a character that really wasn't anything to do with my personality. That had no part of my real personality. So that's a lot easier. Like how Ric Flair. Like we all know that Ric Flair is his real heel personality. From what we've seen, he's maybe to an extreme,
Oh yeah.
but Bret Hart is. Yeah, I think that was the best promo of the year. But yeah, I think it's harder. You have to get more into the zone when like you're playing. Say they made me play like the gobbledygooker, then I might have a bit of an issue. Or if they made me play like um, a character I didn't really want to do, like a superhero character, I think that might be harder.
Mm, yeah. Kind of like Nikki Cross, she turned to like Nikki ASH to like the superhero type of persona when she was turned in from psycho to a superhero.
Yeah, and I think now they're gonna bring her in with Bray Wyatt. From what I hear, they're just gonna change her
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
I always hated them. But superhero movies are popular, so maybe they figure. I think the superhero gimmicks they do are too cheesy to really get over.
Yeah. Out of all your wrestling personas, which one do you think you liked doing the most?
I like the Blood Hunter one the most, just because, as I said, when you put on the mat, it's more. I guess it was the least like. It was more of like the furthest version from my real self. So it was more acting, and also I think Hannibal was over at various points. He was over in Puerto Rico, big time. Uh, as a baby face, I was over in Canada for a good 3 year period. I was really popular. But I think the Blood Hunter, when he was heel, I was legitimately the most hated heel. You could say whatever you want. I was the most hated heel by the end of 2021. I still think I was the most legitimate hated heel of 2021. So I think just because it was a different character and I got it over fairly fast and it was popular, like it was the most popular character of SWE Fury, and that promotion was big during the pandemic. And got a lot of YouTube views and stuff, and got a lot of people recognizing me, as I said, in Texas and stuff. I think that was a fun character, just because it was a new character to do. And yeah, I don't know what character I'll be, honestly, when I come back to wrestling. I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know which persona I will come back as, or if it'll be a totally new one.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see which persona that you'll be choosing.
Yeah, the bad part about the Blood Hunter was, I think the best manager he had was Selena De Laurenta, but I think with a character that can't talk and you're always having to get managers in, that can become an annoyance and as an extra cost as well. So that's one of the reasons why I'm thinking of doing a different character when I come back.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
And I've seen Kevin Sullivan lately, and sadly, I mean, I know he had some type of health issue last week. I sadly don't think he's in very good health these days. He was another one of the managers of the Blood Hunter.
Oh yeah, he would have been great to like reunite with and do something.
Yeah. Hopefully he gets better, whatever it is. It wasn't disclosed what he was in the hospital for last week, but I mean, I'd like he's a good character. He does have good ideas. I mean, obviously the Spike one could have been done a lot better, but he did have good ideas for that was one of the best parts about using him as Blood Hunters manager, because he would come up with match ideas and stuff to do.
Yep, for sure. I know he recently had a virtual signing with Rob Feinstein with our video signed by Superstars, like a couple weeks back before his health scare that he had. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he's out of the hospital or not yet, but I did hear word that whatever it is, it's not life threatening, and like he is going to recover from whatever it was.
That's good. So, what were your thoughts on just Bray Wyatt in general, and your takes on him as his persona as like the Fiend and everything that he did in the background of wrestling?
I liked him. I've heard some of his interviews, and he seems like a really nice guy. I Some of the stuff with the Fiend, like the John Cena match there, I really did not like, because it was just so unbelievable, and like so the teleportation and the vapor, people evaporating and stuff, that was a little too much for me. But you can't argue with his success, and it's terrible that he passed away so young, and he was definitely over. I like Waylon Mercy, who was one of the guys he based his character off of, Dan Spivey. And yeah, it's just too bad. By the time he was in there, I really was only watching YouTube clips here and there, so I can't say I was watching the product close enough to give a fair assessment. But other than some of the really out there stuff that it's that made it very hard to suspend your disbelief. I thought he was all right. It'll be interesting to see if the Uncle Howdy version gets over as much as the original one does.
Yeah, I can't wait to see this new faction that they're going to be building up with Bo Dallas, Uncle Howdy. So
Yeah, it should be interesting.
hmm And so you mentioned Waylon Mercy. He would have been another great manager for you as the Blood Hunter.
Yeah, you know what? Okay, yeah, that's not a bad idea. There you go. That's a good one too.
Yeah, or even Vic Grimes, Key.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Waylon Mercy and I are actually friends. I actually like him a lot. I have a lot of
yeah,
respect for him.
yeah. He's
Yeah,
disappeared.
he made his money and he didn't waste his money. I've been to his house. He lives in outside of Tampa, maybe an hour outside of Tampa. The interview I did with him is by the pool at his house.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I seen that.
yeah. He saved his money well, and he's well off. I think he works for WWE because he had substance abuse issues that he overcame. So I think from what I understand, he's one of the people that like helps with that program. If a new guy comes into it, he's like maybe one of the mentors. At least he was doing that when I talked to him at least. And I know he was the voice of the buzzard for
Oh
Firefly Funhouse.
wow, that's awesome. Has there been any time you have accidentally broken out of your wrestling persona during like a wrestling match?
Not really, no, no. And that's always been like a pet peeve of mine when people have done that. Even when there's been some times where there's had to be like half shoot incidents or like fan incidents where there have been other fan incidents, but like that was the most dramatic. But yeah, I've always managed to stay in character where I have seen some people break out of character. Like we've even seen Shawn Michaels do it in his match with Vader. When Vader screwed something up, he like verbally reprimanded Vader out of character, which I mean, he was going through issues at that point, but like, I'm a big believer that you should never break character in a match. Even if something terrible happens, you should try and protect the character. I know it's totally different now, though, the business.
Yeah. What would you say is like the worst injury and most dangerous spot that you've took in your career?
Uh, well, the worst injury was the getting infected with Hep C. Um, I've had an injury. It's not from wrestling that I'm overcoming now. With my ankle, that's getting back to normal now finally. But the worst injury in the match, I think, was that time where he jumped and landed directly on my head. Because I think when Jeremy Prophet did that, when I talked about it earlier, that was one that could have killed me. There's been a lot other than the Sabu match where he busted open the back of my head. I remember in Puerto Rico, a famous Puerto Rican wrestler named Chicano, back all the way in 2005, hit me with a chair in the back of the head as well, and that required a lot of stitches. And I also got a concussion off of that. So you really got to be careful with chairs to the back of the head.
Yeah.
That one took me a few days to get over the concussion issues, but the stitches was like 30 stitches for that one.
Yep.
Also, the coffee pot when Abdullah, if you look up the match where Abdullah the Butcher, he tricked me into making me think that the coffee pot was just going to shatter when he hit me with it. But he hit me with coffee pots are not made of glass. They're actually made of something much sharper than glass because glass will burst if it's heated. So this just sliced my head right. I ended up having to get plastic surgery on it.
Oh wow.
It sliced my head badly, and the paramedics told us that if the match had gone on like any longer, they were going to purposely stop it because they thought I was going to bleed to death.
Wow.
So the worst part about that is it ended up being on a show I promoted, and Abdullah had stolen that coffee pot from his room. So I later got a bill with like $45 extra to replace the coffee pot. So
Out of everything, he just wanted a coffee pot.
yeah, well, I
But
ended
yeah.
up paying for the coffee pot. Plus, in Canada, you got to the healthcare system is not the greatest, but it's free. But you have to pay for ambulances. So I also had to pay for the ambulance. So him doing that with the coffee pot
Oh.
actually cost me money between having to pay for the ambulance and coffee pot.
So down there you have to like pay to call the ambulance to come like to you?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that
There's a
what you're
fee.
saying?
There's a fee. There's like a fee whenever you take an ambulance. It's like I don't know. It's not much. It's like $65 to $80, but it's called like an ambulance fee.
Oh
So,
wow.
but yeah, but the actual medical
Interesting.
treatment here is free.
What do you feel like you are worthy enough to be part of like a wrestling hall of fame, like an indie hall of fame, or any of the sorts?
I'm not really a big like championship or Hall of Fame type of guy. Definitely, if there was a Canadian one, 100%. Or if there was a shoot interviewer one, yes. For wrestling, for an international one, honestly, not at this point. We'll see what the future brings. We'll see. I'm in pretty good shape now. I take good care of myself. Wrestlers are wrestling older. There's stuff like stem cells available, better recovery. Jericho's wrestling into his 50s. I'm 41. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe I'll only have a couple matches and wrestle here and there, or who knows? I might wrestle more. But for now, I definitely think as an interviewer, I do belong in a wrestling Hall of Fame for an interviewer. But
Yeah.
and that will only get more worthy as time goes on. And for a wrestler in Canada, yes, because for many years now, I've been one of the best known independent wrestlers in Canada for like since at least I would say 2011. I've been pretty much one of the top known wrestlers in Canada, and me having by far the biggest YouTube channel in Canada with almost for wrestling 400,000 subscribers. The second biggest is Rene Dupree's with 226,000. So I'm friends with
Yeah.
Rene Dupree. I'm just saying that like there's a big gap between one and two, and then from Rene Dupree's down, there's another huge gap. So like I am by head and shoulders above everyone. So as far as being a reporter in Canada, I can say unbiasedly that I would deserve that. And as a Canadian wrestler, I could say unbiasedly, but I haven't done enough in the U.S. to merit that for the U.S. yet.
Yeah. Do you speak like fluent French too, since you've been in Canada almost all your life?
Yeah, yeah. You have to in this area
Yeah.
for your job. For most jobs, you require it.
Mm-hmm. So if you had one last retirement match, who would you want your retirement match to be against?
Out of everybody,
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar, 100%.
Mm.
Because we know he's going to be back at some point. But I don't
Yep.
see that that's realistic. But he's one of the ones I would like to. I'd also like to wrestle John Moxley, but I wouldn't want that as a retirement match. And of course,
Yeah.
obviously The Rock more than Lesnar, but that's totally unrealistic. I have interviewed The Rock's mom and dad.
Oh.
I think Brock Lesnar is far-fetched, but The Rock is like a complete dream. That would be amazing.
Yeah. What about who would you like to wrestle that has passed away? Who would like to wrestle that has passed away?
That has passed away. Uh, there's a lot. I guess Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, I always wanted to wrestle for some reason because he
Oh
was
yeah.
such a good wrestler. He could make anyone have a good match.
Mm-hmm. I know this is random, but I think you and Chris Benoit Jr. would have a good match. I think you two.
Yeah, I don't know if he ever actually started to wrestle or not. A lot of people thought I looked like Benoit. I actually met him a bunch of times when I went backstage for WWE. Um, I don't know if his son would actually get in the gym and train for wrestling. He could have potential because he looks so much like his dad.
Yep.
The funniest thing was about Benoit, the thing that I remember about him is because he was in Stampede, he still followed like the Stampede wrestling of the early 2000s and he read the message boards. So whenever like when I was getting trials at those days, I was still starstruck of everybody because I didn't know any like now it would be different because I've worked with a lot of them and I've been in the business for so long and I've interviewed so many. But back then I was like always starstruck by Chris Benoit. And like he would know all the details from the Stampede Wrestling message board. And like he'd be asking about all these angles and like about people that you would never expect him to know. So I always
Yeah.
found that like I'm like, holy crap, this guy is actually reading the Stampede Wrestling message board.
Who are 5 wrestlers you would put into the WWE Hall of Fame that are not in there yet that you think deserve it?
Sid, who's one of my friends and definitely deserves it. Demolition. Those are some big ones. Um, Let me think. I mean, those are ones that I really think deserve it. Um, let's think of some other. Those ones really stand out to me that deserve to be in there and aren't, but I'm sure there's others that for political reasons might never get in. I do think they'll eventually put those guys in.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the other two, I don't know. I know there is some that I've thought of before, but I don't. I'd have to like look at the WWE Hall of Fame page. But those are three like 100%. Oh, Rick Martel deserves it. Not as much
Mhm.
as those other guys, but he had a good career. And oh, let's say Jacques Rougeau, my
Oh yeah.
my trainer. He deserves it. The Mountie was over, the Quebecers were over, and the Rougeau brothers were over, and he beat Hulk Hogan in WCW. And I covered his retirement match in Montreal. He had 11,000 people for his retirement match in 2017 or
Wow.
18. I think 2018. How many people can draw 11,000 to an indie show with just him? There was no stars but him. He deserves it.
Wow, that's awesome.
100%.
He definitely does.
Yeah.
I agree. And definitely with uh, I think they're overdue. I think I would like to see definitely like the Nasty Boys and Cyndi Lauper in there. I think Cyndi Lauper overdue.
Oh yeah, there's two: Cyndi Lauper and Zeus. Zeus, who I've interviewed, and I was friends with Zeus. He should be in the celebrity wing because he was actually a very, very popular wrestler at the time and before your time. But he's in the No Holds Barred first WWE movie. And he's well remembered by wrestling fans and a successful actor. I don't think the Nasty Boys will ever go in, sadly. There's stuff online of them being racist that would
Oh,
come out, and I'd be surprised if they ever got put in
yeah.
because they're very political and like controversial people. They have some in there like Sunny, and they get a lot of heat for it, so they'll avoid people that they're probably aware that there's stuff online about them that will be brought to light would they, if they were to be inducted.
Yeah, because a lot of people talk about wanting Chris Benoit in there too, and there, that's like, yeah, that's never gonna happen probably.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Too much bad publicity.
Yep. So, what was your reaction to getting asked to wrestle for the WWE and also TNA Impact?
Well, when I was wrestling for WWE, those were back in those days, like in the later times, as I said, they were doing like week-long tryouts. In the days when I was getting, you would they used me like 14 times or something. Some days you'd be brought back and you just sit back there doing nothing. Other times they would look at you, and if you were good enough, they would give you a match. But like they didn't have like for the most part, like they weren't seriously looking at talent because WWE or WCW and ECW had just closed. There was like a overload of talent, but I think I was quite excited. I was surprised the first time, um, and I really enjoyed it. Um, yeah, I was surprised, and then in later times, it was more frustrating because it's like, how many times am I going to come back here? And they just keep telling me to keep at it. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just not necessarily your time yet. That gets really frustrating when you're putting and paying your dues so much. And I think the most frustrating was Tommy Dreamer when he was head of development talent was really trying to get me hired. Then Nova was signed for a few years. He never gave me any chances. And then the next guy, Ty Bailey, was hired, and he signed me almost right away. He was the one that actually signed me to a contract.
Oh,
And
nice.
and that when I did get signed, that sadly I never got the chance to fulfill due to that Hep C. That was like one of the greatest moments of my life, even though it ended up being fake. But it was like finally all this work had paid off. For TNA, I think I had bad experiences with TNA. The first match for TNA, I actually brought them to Canada for the first time. I promoted
Oh,
their first ever tour here in Canada for them, and they were not. First of all, they never mentioned any of their shows on the Impact TV show. Like we ended up having better crowds than normal, but they're notorious for being bad promoters. Like for instance, we mentioned Rick Martel. Rick Martel wanted to be on the Quebec City show. They said that they didn't want to use him, and then ultimately the night of the show they used him on the show, but they didn't put him in any of the advertising. It's like this is the most
oh,
popular wrestler ever from Quebec City, and it's like why could we have made more money by drawing more people? But you
yeah.
don't put him on any advertising. So it was frustrating. I ended up wrestling Abyss. Abyss is somebody I really wanted to wrestle on one of the shows. There's over 1,000 people, which was very good for TNA. That was good. The second time I feel they used me, um, it was like I ended up getting signed by WWE shortly after the first time in TNA. But at that time, they were thinking of having me feud with Abyss. The second time, it was Scott D'Amore running it, and they used all of my local contacts to help get publicity for their show. They had me do like
Mm.
so much local interviews because I have lots of local contacts here. And by the way, they hadn't come here between. They only randomly came here for a Bound for Glory and some TV tapings, like over 10, actually 10 years after they did my shows. They'd been to other places in Canada, but it was strange that they came back here to Ottawa, Canada. And like they had me use all of my sources for publicity to help promote that they were coming here. And the TV taping that I was on, by the way, was the second highest crowd they had other than Bound for Glory. They ended up doing 5
Oh
TV
wow.
tapings here. Mine was the second highest. But they had me lose. It's like, why do you have me go on all these shows and put over your company and promote you and do all this work, cover your press conference, do interviews with your guys, do all these videos, and then it's not like they had me lose to Moose. They had me lose to some person that I don't even know wrestles anymore. That's not even from this area. It was just like shitting on everybody from this town because they all came to see the local guy wrestle. And then what? You're gonna lose? I mean, it was a competitive match, but like, why not put the local guy over? And they haven't been back here since. But I felt like that was just rude to like have me help so much, and then like don't put the local guy over. And again, it's fine if it was to one of your guys. It's over like Lashley or Moose, but you put me against some random nobody. Kevin Sullivan had told me that if they asked me to leave, to lose, I should have just walked out. And in retrospect, I should have. But whatever. I thought
Yeah.
that was not a nice thing to do to somebody.
Yeah, that's crazy that they
I
made
even
you
I
lose.
even let them paper one of my shows. This is how much work I did for them, okay? We had a show not too long before that. They came, we had about 450 people at this show, and I have the footage of this. They came to the show and they gave out free tickets to all those 450 people to help get people to make their shows look full because they were having a hard time selling tickets. So I even allowed them to do that, and then they don't put me over. Like give me
Wow.
like again, or put me against someone good and have me go under, like Lashley, who I really was a guy I would have loved to have wrestled, but like to put me against a nobody, that's just like insult to injury. What that's almost like a personal thing, a personal vendetta that I don't even know why they would have. I'm the one that brought them to Canada for the first time. It's like
Yeah.
I've done so much for that company, and all those appearances I did to help promote their TV tapings, I did those for free. Anyway,
Wow. Yeah. Crazy.
I didn't want to be unprofessional, so I did it, but I didn't think that was very nice. And then they gave us
Yep.
I'll even say this too. They gave us a promo code, and they said anyone that buys tickets with your promo code, you'll get a cut. And I heavily promoted that. And I know for a fact my father-in-law at the time bought 10 tickets for people at his work. Again, add to the embarrassment of losing. But he used that promo code for at least 10 tickets, not including the people I don't know. And I promoted it hard on Hannibal TV. We didn't get a cent out of this supposed money we're supposed to get from sharing the promotional code. So I definitely think they're kind of shady.
Wow. Yeah, that is definitely crazy. After everything that you did for them, they just wow, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. And again, I had to. I even did a tryout to like with Scott Demore like months before they even came here. So it's like the other guy wasn't even at that tryout. So it's like I I drove to Windsor for that. It's like I've showed dedication and I've showed sacrifice, but it's like I promote in this town, so it's like you can at least give me the respect since I promote in this town to not have me lose to nobody. But again, I should have listened to Kevin Sullivan. In retrospect, I mean, hindsight's 2020, as they say. I should have just left as he advised me.
Yeah. Would you go back now? Because I know it's not ran by Scott anymore. It's ran by Tommy Dreamer. I'm pretty
No,
sure.
yeah,
Would you go
it's
back?
all different owners. It's all different owners. Yeah, I'm not actually surprised they got rid of him because Brandon Thurston in one of his Business of the Business podcasts reported they averaged 200 fans last year. He found the average of all the events and it was 200. Um, I don't know. I don't even know who runs it. I know Tommy Dreamer is head of creative now. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be my no comment. I wouldn't say yes. Wouldn't say no. It would depend on the offer.
Yeah.
But
Of course. So
I do
if you
like
could
that
wrestle,
they're using PCO well. I am for longtime friends with PCO, and I'm glad he's
oh
being
yeah,
used well there.
yeah, he was doing great things.
And he's like
If you,
55 or something.
yeah, he's pretty old and he's doing stuff still. So
It's crazy. I
if you could
remember honestly, I
wrestle,
was roommates with him when he was I was roommates with him when he was like 45 for a while, and I'm thinking this guy is living in a fantasy land. They're never no, he's never gonna make it anywhere. Like he proved everyone wrong to a certain extent.
yep, for sure. He got some Guinness World Records too, because he's like a monster. So
Yeah, and I wrestled him a ton of times too. He would be there with Jacques Rougeau sometimes at the school in the days when I was training. And he was my roommate in Puerto Rico and in England. When I wrestled in England, we would work out together.
yeah. So I know you wrestled in Japan and Mexico, which are a lot of wrestlers' dream places to wrestle. Two of them. But if you could wrestle anywhere else in the world, where would that be?
Well, I actually have wrestled for New Japan, but in the USA, I never wrestled in Japan. So I would say I would like to wrestle in actual Japan at some point, even though wrestling's not as hot there as it was. But I would say Japan.
Okay, yeah. So the Noki Dojo was in America?
Yeah, they used to have one in Los Angeles. Yeah,
All right.
I
Yeah.
had a six-man tag team match back in 2006. I wrestled on one of their shows. Brian Danielson was one of the trainers in those days.
Nice. What is a number
But yeah,
one?
to do, I think I am good. I'm well suited for Japan, just for whatever reason. Um, I don't know why I've never got the opportunity there. They're not taking as many Americans, and it's weird that they're not going for like the classic American heels like they were used to because the Blood Hunter I think would have been good in Japan because
Yeah,
he's
I agree.
stiff
Yeah.
and violent. And like if
Yeah,
you
I
look
could see that.
at first of all, look at Abdullah the Butcher. He's such a legend there. I actually beat him in his Canadian retirement match, and I beat him numerous times. Terry Funk, I've worked with, he's a legend there. There's not many people that can still go that can say they've worked with both Terry Funk and Abdullah the Butcher. So
Yep.
I don't know what it is. And I'm friends with Brody's wife. And like in the past, like guys that bleed and make people bleed get over there, and that are big and vicious. But I don't know. They haven't had really anyone like that for a while. It's more the acrobatic ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see the Blood Hunter definitely fitting in well. After you said that, like it popped to my brain. Yeah, that would definitely be really good. So
Yeah. I wouldn't hold your breath, but I definitely think I'll definitely go over there for some promotion eventually. I had when I went to Puerto Rico, I had the opportunity to go to for 01 Japan at the same time, but 01 was for a tour and Puerto Rico was for like a full-time job. So I took Puerto Rico, but I'm sure other opportunities will come. I'm good friends with Sonny Ono, who has a lot of contacts over there, but I never asked him for a favor yet.
yeah. What would you say is the number one top unforgettable moment in your whole entire wrestling career that you like never forget?
Well, as I just mentioned, the with Terry Funk when he was a special guest referee when I wrestled Kevin Nash, and there was 3,000 fans in Thunder Bay, Ontario. That was one of my favorite moments because I was a big fan of Kevin Nash and I was a big fan of Terry Funk. And that Terry Funk did an angle with me that was so realistic. We sold like an extra 500 tickets the day of the event because people wanted to see Kevin Nash beat me because I beat up Terry Funk. I mean, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self something motivational towards being a wrestler, what would that be?
The biggest thing I would have told myself is I was a great amateur wrestler in high school, the equivalent of state champion, Canadian champion, and I had scholarship opportunities, which I turned down to go straight into pro wrestling because I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I would have told myself, which I didn't know at the time because it wasn't publicized really at the time. Continue on in amateur wrestling. They recruit from amateur wrestling, which they do now, and I didn't realize that. Where I would have definitely
Yeah.
been better off just doing NCAA. I had an offer to go to the University of Buffalo, scholarship there, Simon Fraser in Canada, where they have recruited some. One of those guys in Karrion Cross's group is from Simon Fraser. I forget the name of the guy. His real name is Sonny something, but he's one of those
Oh,
big
Acom.
Indian guys. Yeah, he's from Simon Fraser. I had a scholarship to Simon Fraser and University of Buffalo, but at the time Lesnar hadn't debuted yet, and it wasn't like public knowledge that they actually recruited because the internet wasn't as big from NCAA. But yeah, that's the biggest thing I would tell myself. And the other thing I would tell myself if I were to not do that and go to wrestling school, at the time I trained with the Hearts, they had horrible relations with WWE. The screw job had happened recently. I mean, Harry Davies' son ended up getting in, and Natalia, but they're like blood. But like, there was no relationship where like they're a feeder system. It's better. It would have been better to go somewhere like Offa's that has a history of like helping you get booked. Or Rick. Another big mistake I made in 2006. Rick Bassman, who I'm now friends with, who trained the Warrior, Sting, Cena. He was trying to tell me, "Come train with me for a few months. I'll get you signed." I didn't do it,
Oh wow.
but now I realize what's more important is who you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because I ended up going again. I ended up doing another tour in Puerto Rico rather than train with Rick Bassman, where because I was thinking to myself, well, I'll get paid in Puerto Rico, but in reality, Rick would have got me signed, and he even says this to this day. I would have been signed just because of his connections at the time. So it's important, and I'll tell that to people out there too. Like as known as the Hearts name was, they didn't have the connections at the time. They had a terrible relationship. So you should go somewhere with a history of getting people in because if you don't have someone to open the door for you, it is easier now with they do have that recruit site and everything now, but it's way easier if you have someone that's going to push for you to get signed.
Yep, for sure. If you came with a warning label, what would it say?
Don't screw me over because I might seem very nice, but if you mess with me, I will get revenge ultimately.
Yeah, nice. If you could have an entrance with any band or singer to do your entrance theme song, who would you want that to be?
Oh, Ozzy Osbourne, of course. He would be great.
Ooh, yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
And at one
That,
point, he was a wrestling fan. I don't know how he's still alive, but somehow he's still alive.
yeah.
I did do security for his band once. I did do security for Black Sabbath once, and that was a great experience.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does his family podcast now. He doesn't seem in good health at all. He's like in really bad shape and
Yeah. He's done a lot of drugs over the years, so it's impressive that he's still alive.
yep. And he's just psycho and just in general.
Oh God, I've read his book. I mean, his book. I mean, I don't approve. Although I'm a fan of his, I do not approve of what he's done to animals over the years. He's done some terrible, terrible stuff. But he's definitely has a few screws loose. But he has a good wife. One thing I've noticed with wrestlers, the ones that marry well do well in life. The ones that have wives that like take care of their money and aren't there just to steal their money and divorce them. Like all most of Ric Flair's have been. I mean, the ones with good wives, the guys end up all right in the end. Um, and then there's a lot that end up with nothing.
Yeah. Yep. If you could have anyone manage you as a wrestler, who would you want that to be?
Oh, that would be Ric Flair. I guess I'll say, even though he probably hates me for some of my recent updates, Ric Flair, because I do
Yeah.
believe he's still the best talker in wrestling, and he proved that the other week. And AEW is stupid for not using him when he was the most talked about wrestler last week, and they have him under contract. Why the hell would you have one of your baby faces beat him up or something? But like he's in
Yeah.
all the news, and you're just gonna have him sit at home.
Yeah.
Like it makes no sense.
Or maybe it was Rick's. Maybe they did try to get him, and it was just Rick's choice to stay away because of the problem.
Yeah, could have been, but he is supposedly under. I did hear him say on Rampage Jackson's podcast he's under contract. But yeah, it could have been
Yeah.
Rick wanting to stay out of the spotlight. Anything's possible.
Yeah. What is your whole like reaction of Ric Flair's uh, approach at the restaurant when a fan came up to him and like a rude?
I don't believe his version at all. I don't believe his version at all. I don't believe Ric Flair's version. There's too many holes in it. I do. One thing I do think is he should have better people out with him because he's clearly not gonna stop drinking. So he should have someone that's gonna keep him out of those situations and make sure that nobody's filming and make sure if he starts to do dumb stuff that they'll get him the hell out of there.
Yeah.
I've seen. I don't want to. Oh, I mean, I've seen that The Rock. I mean, maybe this only happened once, but at one point it seemed like The Rock's dad had someone like that around him, and not that The Rock's dad was like Ric Flair, but when he would do at least one appearance, I saw him that maybe like The Rock wanted to have some like an insurance policy that nothing bad happened with it with his dad. Maybe it was just security, but I did notice when I one of the times I met The Rock's dad, he had someone like that around him to be like, no one's gonna film this guy unless it's someone like me that's known in wrestling, and I've already okayed the questions I'm gonna ask, and like no, and he's not gonna get out of hand, and if he does get out of hand, this guy's gonna take care of him. I'm not saying he was anything as bad as Ric Flair. Even Rocky's dad told me when I interviewed him that Rick had a problem back then. And I think my phone
Mm.
is going to die soon here. That's what I've been fidgeting with. I don't have my. I'm somewhere else due to a little accident I had earlier, and I don't have my cell phone charger, so I think we'll have to call it soon.
All right. Yeah, I'll ask you a couple more questions if that's good with you.
Yeah, and if it
All
cuts
right.
out, it's the cell phone dying.
All right. So, what is one thing you would tell your fans, wrestling fans?
What's one thing I would tell my fans
Yeah.
about myself?
Yeah, about
That I
like your
greatly
wrestling.
appreciate all of my fans. Yeah, that I very much appreciate the fans, and they allow me. I live my dream as a reporter. I work in I may have a job, but it's just to get me out of the house, give me some extra income. My real job is as a wrestling reporter and journalist, working with a lot of people I grew up idolizing. So I thank the fans for following me and allowing me that privilege and cheering loudly at shows and supporting me as a wrestler, letting me live out my in ring dreams for those that have seen me in person. And
Yeah.
by the way, thehannibaltv.com has all the information on the next Great North Wrestling events for anyone in Ontario that is interested.
Yeah. And then, do you have any advice for me to become a wrestler and also on my podcast better at like any advice on my podcasting and also to become a wrestler?
Try and get, not that I have a background, I'm stuck in a garage right now, but try and get a background better than the one you have. Uh, as far as a wrestler, try and go to a school where you're going to have connections, as I mentioned, like Tom Pritchard, whose brother is in WWE Creative. He has a good one. Or Booker T's. He has a direct line into NXT. There's others that just aren't popping into my head now, but go to like a school like that and start working out with weights, do amateur wrestling because amateur wrestling can help you protect yourself and also get you into good shape and show you moves that you can actually use to chain wrestle in matches. Grappling is good too. Get your cardio
Yeah.
up and practice promos and mirrors and stuff, and yes, things like that. But it's a very tough business. There's a lot of jobs now. I don't know how that's going to last, but it's a tough business. It's hard physically. It's hard emotionally. There is a lot of bad people in wrestling. I'll tell you that right now. A lot of bad people that are selfish and dishonest. So you have to watch out for those. Um, and try and be smart and stay away from partying as much as possible.
Yeah.
That would be my best advice.
Thank you.
No problem. Best of luck to you.
Yeah.
And
And I
that's Jack
appreciate
Gilby. The we have the executive vice president of Great North Wrestling commenting on your post.
that's
Jack
right.
Gilby. He also has a
Yeah.
podcast. You should have him on sometime.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it actually. Yeah, he's great. He's the one that helped me get you on here, so
He yeah, very good. And he could get you up in Great North Wrestling once you start wrestling.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah. That would be great.
Oh yeah, and the other advice is try and stand out, try and do something different than everybody else is doing, which is easy advice that everyone says, but don't try and be the next Young Bucks because there's a million Young Bucks trying to do that right now. So try and come up with something unique.
Yeah, I like wrestle on my trampoline backyard on my backyard. I have like a whole persona set up. Like I'm from like Amsterdam, Netherlands. I'm a big heel. I go under the name Mr. Hardcore Psycho Shredder Von Dyke. So, I wear like face paint, like the cones on the eyes. So, yeah,
There you
that's
go.
what I
So you know
got
what
so
I'm talking
far.
about when you put makeup on. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about putting makeup or a mask on.
Yep.
Very good. Well, I can see I'm at 1% right now. So I'll really have to
All right.
get going. Hopefully, I'll be out of
Yep.
this predicament soon. But I appreciate you having me on. You helped my time go by faster, and I wish you the best of luck. And follow
Yeah.
the
Thank you for
Hannibal
taking your time out.
TV on YouTube. Oh, no
Yep.
problem at
Thank
all.
you.
TheHannibalTV.com is our website for anyone who wants to check it out. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at The Hannibal TV. Good luck to you, buddy.
All right. Have a good day. Night.